Hello students and welcome to the second part of Political Science, Chapter 4, Social and Political Movements. In the first part of the chapter, we have learned what is a movement and why movements are important. In the second part, we will continue to learn about the important movements in India. So let's learn some important movements in India. The first movement we will be learning is the tribal movement. In the pre-independence period, the British government deprived tribal people of their rights to livelihood on forest resources. There were tribal uprisings in the Kolam from Chota Nagpur, Gond from Orissa, Koli, Bhillar and Ramoshis from Maharashtra, Santhal and Munda from Bihar. The tribal struggle has continued since those years. Tribals in India face several problems. One major problem is that they are denied rights over forest. The main demand of the tribal movement is to accept their rights over forests. They should be allowed to collect the products of forest and also should have a right to cultivate on the forest land. So before the independence, the tribal people used to live in the forest and they used to manage their livelihood by using the resources from the forest or either by hunting or farming. But the Britishers stopped all these activities, due to which the tribal people started the agitation against the government because their right over the forest were taken. Many problems were faced by the tribal people, but among all the major problems, their rights over the forests which was taken from them, that was the most sensitive or some important issues. So the tribal demanded that they should be allowed to have the right over the forest. They should be allowed to do all the activities like collecting the fruits or hunting, farming, collecting the all other resources on which their livelihood used to go. So the people started to have a protest against the Britishers. They demanded for their rights over the forest. So when there was a tribal uprising throughout India, whether it was from Chota Nagpur, it was from Orissa, Maharashtra, Bihar, throughout India, many of the tribal people, they started their struggle and it continued since so many years. The next movement is the farmers movement. Farmers movement in India, this is the very sensitive issue of our nation. Farmers movement in India is an important movement. During the British period, farmers started getting organized due to anti-agricultural policies of the British colonial government. You must be aware of the farmers movement in Bardoli, Champaranya and movements against revenue collection. The farmers movement were inspired by the thoughts of Mahatma Phule, Justice Ranade and Mahatma Gandhi. Due to some reforms in agriculture, tenancy law, laws relating to tilting of the land, etc., the farmer movement slowed down. So the farmer movement, as it is said, it is an important movement in India. Also, we have learned about in our previous classes about various satyagraha. That is during the British period, the farmers, they got organized due to the reason that many of the policies which were made by the British colonial power, that is by the British government, they were against the farmer. So we have learned various type of a movement in the pre-independence period, that is the Bardoli Satyagraha of 1928. This was a movement in which the independence struggle was led by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel for the farmers of Bardoli against the unjust raising of the taxes which was being imposed upon the people. Champaranya movement of 1917 was the first Satyagraha movement which was led by Mahatma Gandhiji, and it is considered historically important revolt in the India's independence against the revenue collection. The farmers' movement were also inspired by the thoughts of Mahatma Phule, Justice Ranade and Mahatma Gandhi. As I told you that the farmers' movement is an important movement in India, but due to some reforms in agriculture, that means there were few changes which were made in agriculture sector, like the tenancy law. Tenancy law, this refers to the possession or occupancy of a lands or a buildings or other property by the title through a lease or on a payment or of rent. And the other one was the laws relating to tilting of the land. That is, it is a form of a land reform in which private individual and families are given the formal property rights or land which they previously occupied. That was called as a tilting of the land. That is a law related to tilting of the land. Due to these reforms which were made in agricultural sector, the farmers movement now slowed down. After Green Revolution, the farmers movement became more active and effective. Though Green Revolution aimed at increasing agricultural production and achieving self-sufficiency in food grains, it did not benefit the poor farmers. The farmers were now divided into rich farmers and the poor farmers. Dissatisfaction among the poor farmers led to the beginning of the farmers movement. So first let's revise what is a Green Revolution, because already in 9th standard we have learned about the Green Revolution. Green Revolution, it refers to a period when Indian agriculture was converted into the industrial system due to the adoption of various modern methods and technology, such as the use of high yielding variety, which is also called as HYV. Then tractors, irrigation facilities were also developed. Then improved fertilizers, pesticides were used. As the Green Revolution aimed that there should be an increased agricultural production and to achieve the self-sufficiency in the food grain, all the farmers did not get the benefit of it. Many of the poor farmers did not get the benefit of the Green Revolution. And due to this, the farmers were now divided into two groups, the rich farmers and the poor farmers. And due to the farmers who did not get the benefit, the poor farmers, there was a sense of dissatisfaction among the poor farmers, due to which again the farmers movement which had slowed down, as I told you previously, due to some of the reformation which were brought into the agricultural sector. But now after this, the dissatisfaction into the poor farmers, due to this again the farmers movement became active. As the farmers movement had become active after the Green Revolution, some of the demands were put forth by the movement. Let us see which were the demands. First one was appropriate price for agricultural products. That is, at least minimum price should be given to the agricultural harvest. For example, MSP. That is minimum support price. It is an agricultural product price which is set by the government of India to purchase the harvest directly from the farmers. This rate is been given by the government to safeguard the farmers to get the minimum profit for the harvest. Second one was that the agriculture should be treated as an industry. Next one was implementation of the recommendations of the Swaminathan Commission. Swaminathan Commission, it was a National Commission of Farmers, that is also called as NCF. It is an Indian commission which was constituted on 18 November 2004 under the chairmanship of Professor M.S. Swaminathan. According to this commission, many recommendations were made to safeguard and finding solution to the problem faced by the farmers. So according to these demands, one of the demand was implementation of the recommendations of the Swaminathan Commissions. So whatever recommendation were done according to the Swaminathan Commission, those should be brought into action or those should be implemented. This was one of the demand which was been put forth by the farmers movement. Next one was the debt relief. Debt, that is loan. That is, some concession should be given to the farmers when they pay back the loans. Some relief should be given or some concession should be given to them. Next one, debt cancellation. That is cancelling the loan. That is, a special policy should be made for agriculture. Suppose the farmer is unable to pay the loan back. At such a time, provision should be made that the debt should also be cancelled. Then national policy for agricultures are Shetkari Sangatana, Bharatiya Kisan Union, All Indian Kisan Sabha. These are the important farmers organizations in India. Now, along with this organization, some of the policies are also started by the government for the welfare of the farmers and the landless laborers, like the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana or Soil Health Card, then Param Pragat Krishi Vikas Yojana. These are some of the policies which are started by the government for the welfare of the farmers and the landless laborers. Now let us start with the next movement, that is the trade union. Trade union. Trade union in India emerged in the background of industrialization. Textile industry, railway companies were established in India in the later half of the 19th century. In 1899, railway workers went on strike for their demands. However, the first organization for resolving the issues of workers was established in 1920. This organization is known as All India Trade Union Congress. So, in the beginning of the 19th century, industries like the textile mills, railway companies were started in India. Trade union movement in India has the background of this industrialization. In the year 1899, when the railway workers they went on a strike, demanding their improved working condition and to have a better wages. So the people went to a strike so that their demands will be fulfilled. So to solve the problems and the issues of the people who went on a strike, the railway workers, to resolve the issues, first organization was established in the year 1920, and this organization was known as the All India Trade Union Congress. In the post-independence period, trade unions started working more effectively. In 1960s and 1970s, trade union movement organized several agitations. Agitations, it means a situation in which a protest is made in order to achieve or to bring about a change. It's called as an agitation. But from 1980s, trade union movement started getting disintegrated. As we know that in 1920, the All India Trade Union Congress was being formed and it was very powerful. But in 1960s to 1970s also, the trade union was able to organize several agitations to protest. But in 1980s, trade union started getting disintegrated. That means it started losing its strength or it got disintegrated. And let us see what is the main reason for this. Globalization has affected the trade union movement to a greater extent. Now let us learn how the globalization has affected the trade union movement. So globalization has led to the formation of new social, economic and political conditions which has made it increasingly difficult for the trade union to function in the traditional manner. And as a result, due to the globalization, the trade union movement got affected to a greater extent. In India, workers are facing different problems. Unstable employment conditions. In this condition, the workers are not guaranteed about their job. They do not know whether they are going to have a job for a longer period of time or they are going to lose their job. So that is an unstable employment condition, contract laborers. It is a condition in which the workers they have to work on a contract basis. They have been given a particular period and only during that particular period of span of the time, nearly a year or 1 year, according to the contract, the workers have to work. Financial insecurity. Absence of legal protection for workers. So no such a type of provisions are made where the workers may get the protection. Unlimited working hours. Insecurity at a workplace. Insecurity means it may happen that a person is working at a factory or in a mill and accidentally it may happen that it causes a problem to the life of a person. His life is in a risk. So there is no security for the people at a workplace. Health hazard, that means there are various risks to the worker's life at a workplace. So these are some of the problems which the workers face in India. So the government or the trade unions have to make some rules or some provisions are to be made so that the workers may get a proper protection at the working places. So student, this is the end of the second part of the chapter Social and Political Movement. In the third part, that is the last part of the chapter, we will be learning the women movements, environment movement and the consumer movement. I hope you all understood this part well. Thank you students.